Hello travelers! I'm Lorekeen, your traveler's guide to Tyria. We take a detour from our journey around Metrica province, to join the winter festivities. Wintersday is here, and with it, Tixx's infiniarium glided in position above Divinity's reach.
Hooray! Hooray! It's Wintersday!
Today we'll talk traditions and the perpetual fight between good and evil. But first, let me ask you this, have you ever wondered why an Asura is giving things for free? At a human festival? That has religious figures at its core? Oh yes, we're back at the gods. This time, Dwayna and her son Grenth, and their continuous fight on the issue of whether winter should continue, or is it time for spring? By the way, winter in Tyria is the season of the Colossus, while spring is known as the season of the Zephyr. Blinded by the decoration that turned Divinity's reach into a winter paradise, we might forget that Wintersday is not just a karmic banquet of gifts and achievements. Hundreds of years ago, this festival was a time of decision and division, as the two of the gods competed to see which of them would dominate the next year. Will it be Dwayna, the goddess of light, air, and warmth, or the cold bitter Grenth? Humans would show their support for one of these two deities, and in doing so, they would help usher in an age of light and joy, or death and sorrow. In Lion's Arch, old Nicholas would guide heroes towards the preacher of these gods. In the name of Dwayna and for the children, Joy would ask heroes to assist in building magical snowmen, symbols of innocent belief. Blessed by the goddess, these snowmen would become heroic burles, empowered to keep the Grentches at bay. And sometimes, with the right magic and the right ingredients, the snowman would become something more. To accomplish this, one would need a few simple magical ingredients first, as well as a child to provide the most important component. A wish! And the child suggested was Scrappy Jim. He would need some cheering as he came here with his brother, to make snowmen. But then he was told he was not big enough to help with that. And all of them went off with their friends, and left Jim there to play with a stupid button. But he had an idea, that a button could become part of something better, the biggest snowman ever made. But Jim would need a few more parts. For the eyes, 2 pieces of magic coal could be procured from Vanguard Kyle. Some kind of Titan demons dropped them when some hero defeated them and Kyle thought they would make a good souvenir, but the coals burned a hole in their pocket. From King Jalis, Jim would receive a pipe. It came with a heartwarming story, from the king's younger days. It seems that Gorgash, the giant, dared to threaten Jalis's village. Like any stout young dwarf, the future king grabbed his hammer and beat the giant to a pulp, and then made this pipe out of the giant's bones. Normally, he wouldn't have parted with something with such sentimental value, but the king made an exception for the hero who has done so much for the Deldrimer dwarves. Next, Magi Malaquire, an old wizard that claims to have met King Doric himself, donated a magic hat he had from when he was in a flashier line of work, involving tigers, rabbits, and sawing women in half. With all these ingredients, Jim and the hero build the biggest snowman ever, and boy was he frozen. So Jim named the snowman Freezy. And that was just in time, as Grentches and humbugs were attacking Nebo village, so there was some defending to do. For those who walk the cold path of darkness, Wiemus would offer to bring about a very Grinchy Wintersday. To pay tribute to death, which was in Wiemus' opinion, a necessary cycle of life, an anti-hero would seek out to create a potion of Grinchification. This would help in the creation of a Grinch, a person whose heart has been shrunk 3 sizes. It knew only death, fear, and hatred, and its goal was to create as much mischief and misery as possible. First ingredient for this potion was provided by fisherman Phineas, in the form of Tyrian termites, especially fond of waterlogged wood, more precisely, the fisherman's cherished wooden dock. Then gunk was added, graciously provided by the gunk farmer who made his home in the swamps of Black Curtain. The third ingredient was garlic and was provided by the necromancer Skorzina, who was spending her time killing nobles around Watchtower Coast. And for the last step, the anti-hero needed to catch the infamous clothing bandit of lore and song, Dryardane, and recover a pair of precious, yet unwashed socks which the thief stole from a villager from Nebo Terrace. With the potion done, a Grinch would be born and together with the anti-hero, they could travel to the Ascalon settlement and destroy the Wintersday gifts from Dwayna. Speaking of gifts, Tixx would make a fortune selling these toys at the festival. Anyway, in Commandant, Grandfather Kringle intended to offer a gift to Dwayna, a pair of reindeer, but the Grentches stole them. The hero and a frost maiden went and saved the reindeer. But that was just a distraction. The Grentches were actually after the presents. So Rudy, the reindeer, joined the search party, as his nose would glow in the presence of gifts. The heroes managed to recover those, but then, it turned out that some of the presents were booby-trapped and nobody dared open them. Another solution was needed to bring the Wintersday spirit. Thankfully, Grandfather Kringle brought a festive mow with him, and if the hero sang, the mow would shake her tail feathers and cure the Wintersday blues away. Yes, this quest was for the musically inclined individuals. In favor of Grenth, and also because he needed some peace and quiet, Elder Scrooge would ask passers-by to take some humbugs, and go destroy the snowmen children were building because they heard a foolish tale of a great snowman named Freezy. The anti-hero could offer to teach those kids that Wintersday was a grim season of reflection and self-loathing. Another issue that needed to be taken care of in Grenth's name was that of an enormous Wintersday stocking, stuffed to the seams with a plethora of presents. A whole squadron of Grentches joined in this quest, and they replaced the presents with humbugs and delivered them to those Dwayna-loving simpletons. The Grentches had all the stolen presents deep in the underworld, and once again, the hero could try to recover them, or join in Grenth's defense alongside Grentches Magnus, to defeat all the snowmen and their commander Freezy. Another way to fight Freezy was to join a dwarf named Corey's Deeprunner in the secret lair of the snowmen, in search of the great King Hundar's ancient lost treasure. The secret lair is home to Freezy and the snowmen, it's where they spend their time waiting for Dwayna's call. And the treasure was a recipe for some ale, which in the end turned out a profit for our dwarven friend. The situation would get so heated up, that Melandru would join Dwayna, and Balthazar would ally with Grenth, in the great snowball fight of the gods, a PvP arena where players would attempt to bring presents to the deities of their choosing. That might sound familiar. But it wasn't not all snowmen and snowball fights, some had to work on Wintersday. Like Casey Carpenter, stationed in the Eye of the North. He needed help recruiting 3 wise Norn, who could be enlisted with a handful of roasted chestnuts, some eggnog and snowflakes. The trick was knowing who wanted what. The Norn joined not only the celebration, but also in fending off the Char who were stalking the area, and their char-broiled plans. For the great finale, on the first days of the new year, the gods themselves would join their followers and compete in a game of 9 rings. If Grenth would win, Grentches would spawn and kill players, making them miss on the present hunt around the town. As a fun fact, back in Guild Wars 1, they also celebrated Wintersday in July. It happened once in Guild Wars 2. In the past, this festival was a busy place. In the present, Wintersday comes with more karma farming and less religious fighting. Politically speaking, it's an improvement. You can still fight other players in snowball mayhem, but no godly allegiance is necessary. And the secret lair of the snowmen can be visited again, this time in a strike mission. Here, like in the old days, you can beat up Freezy, but this time is for a good cause. His heart was broken when the gods left, making him a bit grumpy. Still keeping Freezy company is the skeleton of the dwarven King Hundar, and if you find it, you get the Polar Bones achievement. As for the Winter Wonderland, it changed from a PvP arena to a jumping puzzle. This whole area, and the one for the Bell Choir and the Snowball Mayhem are located inside an enchanted snow globe, devised by the Captain's Council with the help of Zomoros. In the old Lion's Arch, this globe would sit on top of the Mystic Forge. And here the story brings us to one of the most important participants in today's festival, Tixx, the toy maker, and his wondrous gigantic golem-shaped airship and workshop, the Infinarium.
This Wintersday will be full of wonder!
After Halloween, Wintersday was the second festival to occur in Guild Wars 2, and Tixx has been a constant presence from the beginning. Initially, his airship would stop each day at one of the capital cities, from the Grove to Lion's Arch. In fact, all the magic snow that decorates these cities is produced by the Infinarium's festivity generators. Don't worry! It's quite harmless and partially holographic. Regional ground temperatures make the risk to wildlife effectively non-existent. The ship was designed by Tixx in collaboration with Ula, its pilot. Inside, the Infinarium is decorated with scale models of buildings representing all 5 cultures in Tyria, including their capitals.
I have the spirit of Wintersday in me.
Tox is Tixx's assistant and she is actually a toy. Interestingly, she is modeled after Mark I golems, of Inquest production. Tox is a rebel. She cheats at the race, starting early by 9 whole seconds, and it seems she has a bit of Gladys in her. Probably that is why she keeps malfunctioning.
Today's weather report, flurries of frivolity, mixed with rays of revolution.
Snargle Goldclaw wrote a book about Tixx and Tox and the Toys Revolution. But let's meet the rest of the team, which also goes by the name of Funwerks crew. Cassie is the one in charge when Tixx is busy, and she finds this the perfect environment to let her creativity and natural instinct for leadership shine. Plus, not many labs get the attention this airship receives.
I'm craving warm chocolate and a blazing hearth. I think I was meant to be a Norn.
This is Yim, he loves talking about the toys, unlike Grupp who's a grumpy. Next is Bliss, whose inventions are a little different, but he is hoping to follow in Tixx's footsteps. Overall this is a fine team. So this brings us back to my initial question. Why are they doing this? If you ask Tixx, he will tell you he wants to further his bid to become the face of Wintersday and Divinity's reach, but I think there is more to it.
Oh my! I'm not brainstorming, I'm having a brain hurricane!
There is no lore to this part, only my speculation. As we've seen in our series about Metrica Province, the Asura are about ambition, recognition, and profit. Yet here they are, at the core of a festival about generosity. Maybe it's their superior intellect, or their belief in the eternal alchemy, where each of us are a cog in a greater mechanism. Maybe Tixx understands that beyond mere children's games, Wintersday is about something bigger. Games teach us fantasy, toys bring us joy in dark times. This ultimately means a better life, and it's something we can offer to each other. With his presence here, Tixx cast his vote in favor of Dwayna. In favor of life. Maybe this is why he and his airship were sighted joining the ultimate fight in Cantha. I vote for life too, and fantasy, and joy. So let me end this episode with a quote to offer inspiration for the new year. It's from a book about another whimsical winter celebrations, and it is written by one of my favorite people, Sir Terry Pratchett. Humans need fantasy to be human. To be the place where the falling angel meets the rising ape. If our episode brought you a little bit of joy, leave us a comment, or click that like button because we need some joy too. And make sure you are subscribed and have the notification turned on, because we will return next year to continue our adventure in Metrica Province, and hopefully in many other fun places. But until then, happy Wintersday, and happy exploring!